Welcome to Shadows and Gods, where myth isn't just remembered, it's resurrected. Here legends breathe, forgotten battles scream back to life, and the ancient world reveals the terrifying truths it tried to bury. Every story hides a fracture, a moment when the divine trembled, when cosmic order nearly collapsed. And today, we step into the darkest of those cracks, the day the immortal gods themselves fled Olympus. We think of the Greek gods as eternal, unshakable. We picture them on their golden thrones atop Mount Olympus, ruling the cosmos with absolute power, their laughter echoing in halls of marble and light. We see them as beings beyond fear, beyond defeat. But that whole image, that picture of invincibility, is built on top of a forgotten terror. There's a lost story pieced together from obscure texts and fragmented poems that tells of a different time, a story of a day when the heavens emptied, the halls of Olympus fell silent, and the immortal gods themselves knew a fear so profound, they ran for their lives. What if I told you there was a day when the gods of legend, the entire pantheon, fled in a desperate, panicked exodus? A day they scattered and hid, leaving their king to face an apocalypse alone. This isn't a tale of divine squabbles or petty jealousies. This is the story of a catastrophic attack, of a monster so powerful it literally broke the king of the gods, and of the one-day Olympus, the eternal bastion of divine order, well and truly fell. This is the story of Typhon. To understand this terror, you have to first picture Olympus at its absolute peak. After a brutal decade-long war against the Titans, Zeus and his siblings had established a new order. The cosmos, once a whirlwind of primordial chaos, had been tamed. Olympus was its shining capital, a beacon of stability floating in the ethereal heights above the mortal world. Here, the gods lived in unimaginable splendor. Their palaces were marvels of divine craftsmanship, many attributed to the master smith Hephaestus himself. Ambrosia and nectar, the food and drink of immortality, flowed freely. This was the heart of all power. From his throne, Zeus, king of the gods and men, governed the sky and the earth. His judgments were final, his authority reinforced by the devastating thunderbolts forged for him by the Cyclopes. Alongside him sat his queen, the proud and formidable Hera. There was Poseidon, his brother, whose trident commanded the seas, and Hades, who, while ruling the underworld, was a key part of this cosmic balance. There was Ares, the embodiment of brutal war, Aphrodite, whose beauty could start and end conflicts, Apollo, master of music and prophecy, who in later times would become synonymous with the sun itself, and his twin sister Artemis, the fierce huntress often associated with the moon. And then there was Athena, born from Zeus's own mind, the goddess of wisdom and strategy, his most trusted counsel. They were a family, a messy and dysfunctional one, sure, but they were the foundation of reality. They believed their reign, won through blood and war, was eternal. The Titans were locked away in the deepest pit of Tartarus, a prison thought to be inescapable. The age of cosmic revolution was over. They had faced down their parents' generation and won, and they believed no threat could ever again reach their sacred mountain. They were wrong. Their victory was built on the subjugation of primordial forces, and one of those forces, the very earth itself, wasn't finished fighting. The source of the coming storm wasn't a rival god, but Gaia, the primordial mother of all creation. She was the earth, ancient and elemental, her heart seething with a rage that had simmered for eons. First, Zeus had imprisoned her children, the Titans, even though she'd initially helped him. Seeing her offspring chained in eternal darkness was an unbearable offense. Then came another insult. Zeus and the Olympians had systematically slaughtered another group of her children, the giants, in a war known as the Gigantomachy. The gods, with the help of the mortal hero Heracles, asserted their dominance once more, leaving Gaia's giant sons dead upon her own surface. This was the final humiliation. The matriarch of the cosmos decided the Olympian order was a blight that needed to be erased. If her children couldn't rule the heavens, she would birth something that would tear the heavens down. So in an act of ultimate cosmic defiance, Gaia descended to the deepest abyss to lie with Tartarus. Tartarus wasn't really a god. It was a place, a sentient void of torment, the prison of the gods' greatest enemies. Their union wasn't one of passion but of pure concentrated hatred, a fusion of earth and abyss, designed to create the ultimate weapon. From a dark cave in the mortal lands of Cilicia, their monstrous son was born. His name was Typhon. The ancient poets struggled to describe him, and piecing their accounts together paints a nightmare. Typhon was so colossal, his head scraped the stars. From his shoulders sprouted 100 dragon heads, each with its own horrifying voice, sometimes speaking like gods, other times bellowing like bulls, roaring like lions, or yelping like dogs. His eyes glowed with fire, and his lower half was a writhing mass of gigantic viper coils. Instead of fingers, 100 more serpent heads writhed from his hands, and massive leathery wings grew from his back, capable of casting the world into shadow. Typhon wasn't just a monster. He was an anti-god, a living engine of chaos. He was the physical embodiment of Gaia's rage, born for a single purpose, to overthrow Zeus and extinguish the light of Olympus for good. The day Typhon rose, the world broke, mountains trembled, the seas boiled, a wave of heat and a sound of pure chaos washed over the mortal world and reached the sacred peaks of Olympus itself. The gods felt the mountain shudder, not from a simple earthquake, but from a tremor that shook the very foundations of the cosmos. Then they saw him, a shape rising on the horizon, a storm of fire and darkness moving towards them. As writers like Apollodorus tell it, the Olympians were seized by a terror they had never known. This wasn't a rival they understood, like the Titans. This was primordial, something wrong. This was chaos incarnate. Panic, an emotion meant for mortals, erupted in the golden halls. In one version of the story, it's Pan, the god of the wild, who first cries out a warning, his rustic nature sensing the primal wrongness of Typhon's approach. What followed wasn't a strategic retreat. It was a desperate, shameful flight. The immortal rulers of the universe broke. They abandoned their thrones, their palaces, their sacred mountain, and they fled. In their terror, they disguised themselves, their divine forms melting away into the shapes of mortal beasts. The accounts from writers like Pseudo-Apollodorus give us a humiliating roster of these transformations. Hera, the queen of heaven, became a white cow. Apollo, the god of light, turned into a hawk. Artemis, the fierce huntress, became a cat, slinking into the shadow. Ares, the god of war, who reveled in bloodshed, evolved into a common fish and disappeared into the water. Dionysus became a goat, Hephaestus, an ox, the swift messenger Hermes, an ibis. They fled not to another divine realm, but to the farthest corner of the mortal world they knew, Egypt. This bizarre flight was later used by Greek storytellers to explain the animal-headed gods of Egypt, a bit of mythic interpretation on their part. In that moment, it was just a desperate scramble for survival. Olympus, the eternal city, was left empty. Its golden halls were silent. The gods were gone. All of them. Well, except for one or two. Some sources say Athena, the unflinching goddess of wisdom, remained, perhaps even taunting her father. But all versions where the gods flee agree on one thing. Zeus, the king, did not run. As his family scattered in a stampede of feathers, fur, and scales, Zeus stood his ground. He was more than a king. He was the living symbol of the cosmos. the principle of order he had bled to establish. To flee would be to admit that chaos was stronger. It would be an abdication of his very reason for existing. The fear he felt was immense, a cold dread even a god couldn't deny. But his duty was greater. He armed himself for war. He grasped his ultimate weapons, the thunderbolts, forged for him by the Cyclopes, containing the raw power of the sky. He mounted his celestial war chariot and ascended to meet the abomination his grandmother had unleashed. The clash was immediate and cataclysmic. Zeus unleashed a storm of lightning that lit up the heavens. The air crackled as bolt after bolt slammed into Typhon's monstrous form. The poet Hesiod describes a scene where the earth, sea, and sky all seemed to melt together in a vortex of fire and thunder. For a moment, it looked like order would prevail. Zeus's bolts found their mark, scorching Typhon's many heads. Confident, Zeus moved in closer for the final blow. But Typhon, though injured, was far from defeated. He had weathered the initial storm, and now it was his turn. The king of the gods had made a fatal error. He underestimated the true power of chaos. As Zeus drew near, Typhon's immense coils shot out, wrapping around the king of the gods. According to the detailed account in Apollodorus's Bibliotheca, Typhon disarmed Zeus. He wrenched from Zeus's grip an adamantine sickle. And here's a chilling thought some scholars have pointed out. This might have been the very same sickle Cronus used to overthrow his father Uranus at the dawn of time. The symbol is devastating. The instrument that began the age of the Titans was now being used to end the age of the Olympians. With Zeus ensnared, Typhon used the sickle not to kill him, but to do something far worse. He sliced through the sinews, the muscles and tendons of Zeus's hands and feet, rendering him utterly powerless. The king of the gods, the wielder of lightning, couldn't stand, couldn't even grasp a weapon. He was helpless, triumphant. Typhon hoisted the broken body of Zeus onto his massive shoulders and carried him to the dreaded Coretian cave in Cilicia. There he dumped the paralyzed god onto the cold stone floor. In a final act of humiliation, Typhon took Zeus's severed sinews, the source of his physical strength, and hid them in a bear skin. To guard this grotesque prize, he appointed a warden, a monstrous half-woman, half-serpent creature named Delphine. This was the absolute low point, the ultimate defeat for divine order. Olympus was abandoned. Its pantheon was hiding in the guise of frightened animals, and their king was a mutilated prisoner in a dark cave, guarded by a dragon woman, his power locked away in a bearskin. Chaos hadn't just challenged order, it had apparently won. The universe held its breath, waiting for the end. With Zeus defeated, you can almost imagine the cosmos itself falling into disarray. The sun and moon faltering, the seasons bleeding together, the world sliding back into primordial chaos. The gods, cowering in Egypt, could only watch in despair. The war was over, they had lost, but not all hope was gone. Two gods, who may have fled with the others, decided they couldn't stand by while the universe unraveled. They weren't the most powerful, but they had gifts that brute force couldn't match. Hermes, the fleet-footed messenger, the god of cunning and thieves, and with him, Aegipan, a goat-legged god, often identified with Pan. While the others were paralyzed by fear, Hermes and Pan cooked up a daring rescue mission. They knew a direct assault was suicide. They'd have to rely on stealth and wit. They traveled in secret to the Coretian cave. The details are sparse, but the story, as it's been colorfully retold, was one of pure cunning. Hermes may have used his silver tongue to distract the monstrous Delphine, while Pan let out a sudden, blood-curdling shriek, a sound so terrifying it could inspire panic. In that critical instant, the two gods slipped past the startled dragon woman. They found the bearskin, retrieved the severed sinews of Zeus, and crept to the side of their broken king. Painstakingly, they refit the tendons into Zeus's limbs. Slowly, miraculously, strength flowed back into his body. He could move his fingers, then his hands. He could flex his feet, and then he could stand. Zeus rose from the floor of that dark cave, not just restored, but reborn in a cold, silent, and absolute fury. The time for battle was over. This was now extermination. The Zeus who emerged from that cave was not the same god who had entered it. His pride was shattered, and in its place was an icy resolve. He pursued Typhon with the single-minded focus of an avalanche. Reclaiming his thunderbolts, he chased the monster across the world. The final battle was a running war that scarred the face of the planet. Zeus, now understanding his enemy, didn't get close again. He kept his distance, unleashing a relentless barrage of lightning. Typhon fought back with all the fury of the earth, tearing up entire mountains and hurling them at the sky. But Zeus just blasted them out of the air. The chase led them to Mount Etna, where, according to the very late epic poem, the Dionysiaca, the fates themselves intervened. They tricked Typhon, offering him ephemeral fruits that they promised would grant him strength. Desperate, the monster devoured them. But they were a lie, designed to sap his immortal power. Weakened but still defiant, Typhon fled to Thrace. There the ground became so soaked with the monster's blood that the range was forever known as the Haemus or Bloody Mountains, a grim piece of ancient folk etymology. Finally, the chase reached its end in Sicily. With Typhon cornered and weakened, Zeus prepared the final blow. In a cataclysmic display of power that would echo for all eternity, Zeus hurled Mount Etna on top of the beast, burying him deep beneath the earth. The father of all monsters wasn't killed. Such a primal force couldn't be destroyed, but he was imprisoned, trapped forever under the weight of a volcano. The war was over. The skies cleared. Silence fell over the world. The scars of the battle were everywhere, but order had been restored. Beneath Mount Etna, Typhon still lives. His impotent rage and fiery breath are said to be the cause of the volcano's eruptions, a permanent reminder of the chaos lurking just beneath the surface. Slowly, hesitantly, the other gods returned from Egypt. They came back not with arrogance, but with the humility of survivors. They found Olympus scarred but standing, their home secured by the one king who refused to abandon it. Their perception of Zeus was forever changed. He was no longer just the strongest among them. He was their savior. He had faced the apocalypse alone, been broken by it, and risen again to secure their existence. His authority was no longer just about power. It was now seen as a necessary shield against the abyss. The day the gods abandoned Olympus was the very day that Zeus's rule became absolute. The myth of Zeus and Typhon is more than just an epic battle. It's the ultimate story of order versus chaos. It reveals the fragility of civilization and the necessity of an unyielding will to hold the darkness at bay. It tells us that even the most powerful beings can know fear, and that true strength isn't the absence of that fear, but the courage to face it when everyone else has run away. The day Olympus was abandoned became the cornerstone of Zeus's eternal reign. By facing his own extinction, he guaranteed the survival of his world and cemented a power structure that would define Greek mythology for all time. He had secured his throne, but the primordial forces he defeated were never truly gone. Gaia's rage was never extinguished. The Titans were still in Tartarus, and Typhon was still breathing fire beneath a mountain. They were only waiting. History remembers the gods as perfect, untouchable, immortal. But this story shatters that illusion. Olympus survived, not because its gods were fearless, but because one of them stood, broken and bleeding, against the end of the world. And somewhere beneath Sicilian stone, the monster who broke him still waits.